Welcome to WorldXplain. Right now, in your pocket, or maybe sitting on the desk right in front of you, there's a device holding hundreds, maybe even thousands of messages. And here's the unsettling truth. Hidden within those seemingly innocent lines of text, there are lies. Deception is literally lurking in our digital inboxes, in our emails, our text messages, and across all our chat platforms. You see, we communicate through screens way more than we do face-to-face these days, and that shift has given birth to an entirely new breed of mystery. How do you catch a liar when you can't even see them? Well, today we're going to explore a groundbreaking case analysis that reveals exactly how artificial intelligence is being trained to do what human intuition simply cannot, hunting for the truth in an absolute sea of digital deception.
Here's our investigation blueprint for today's explainer. First, we'll look at the human lie detector. Second, the digital deception epidemic. Third, mining for the truth. Fourth, machines against liars. And finally, we'll examine the flaws in the system. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The Human Lie Detector. For centuries, uncovering the truth relied basically entirely on human intuition. Picture a seasoned detective staring down a suspect in a tense interrogation room. But I want you to look closely at this number, 54%. When humans try to figure out if someone is lying to them in a conversation, they only get it right about 54% of the time. Think about that. You are barely better than a random coin flip. The hard truth here is that we are inherently biologically flawed when it comes to being lie detectors. Even highly trained professionals, people who do this for a living, really struggle. We simply do not have the natural wiring to consistently catch deception, even when the person is sitting right across the table from us.
Section 2. The digital deception epidemic.
So, if we are genuinely that bad at catching liars in person, what happens when we move the conversation online? As massive streams of data have connected our modern world, the art of deception has totally multiplied. When you look at face-to-face communication, we naturally rely on all these physical cues. We look for facial expressions, avoiding eye contact, or stress in someone's voice. But with online communication, all of those vital human clues completely vanish into flat text on a screen. Because we completely lack those physical signals, spotting a liar in a random text message or a corporate email becomes practically impossible for the human brain. We are basically flying blind. Now, you might be wondering, why does this actually matter on a larger scale? Well, this isn't just about someone lying about their weekend plans. When we can't detect digital deception, the real-world consequences are incredibly severe. Criminal investigations lose their accuracy, potentially letting guilty people walk entirely free. Fraud and cybercrime absolutely skyrocket because scammers know they can operate completely hidden behind a keyboard without giving themselves away. And inside massive organizations, dishonest employees can literally hide in plain sight. Manual checking of these massive digital data streams is just impossible now. Organizations and governments are completely drowning in data, desperately needing a new way to monitor all of this. Section 3. Mining for the truth. Because our human intuition fails us so often, and because the sheer volume of digital text is way too massive to ever read manually, we need an unrelenting automated digital investigator. And for the researchers tackling this, it all started with this number, 371. They didn't just scrape random low-stakes internet comments. They needed high-stakes, real-world, gritty data. So they gathered 371 verified written statements from suspects and witnesses involved in actual crimes on military bases. Law enforcement officers had already proven, through hard physical evidence and closed investigation outcomes, which of these specific statements were the absolute truth and which were deliberate, calculated lies. This highly verified data set became the perfect foundational training ground for our new digital detective. But here's the catch. You can't just hand a giant pile of handwritten paper to a computer algorithm and say, figure this out. Step 1 required the painstaking manual transcription of every single one of these handwritten statements. Researchers literally had to sit down and type out every single word just to convert it into a digital format that the machine could actually analyze. And honestly, this is a massive bottleneck in the real world. It's incredibly time-consuming, it carries a severe risk of human transcription errors, and it's totally impossible to scale up for larger national-level datasets. But at the time, it was a totally necessary hurdle to prepare the raw data for the machine. Okay, so once the data was finally digitized, the system employed something called text mining. By definition, text mining is the process of extracting useful information and hitting patterns from written text. Think of it kind of like a highly advanced digital highlighter on steroids. The computer isn't sitting there reading the story to understand the plot or the human drama. It's mathematically scanning the underlying structure of the words, looking for invisible linguistic patterns that our human eyes completely gloss over. To get even more specific, the researchers utilized a technique called message feature mining. They essentially trained the system to hunt down 31 distinct linguistic clues. You see, when people lie, they actually subconsciously change how they write. It's fascinating. For example, a liar might try to subconsciously distance themselves from their own lie by dropping personal pronouns. Words like I or me start mysteriously disappearing from their sentences. The machine is meticulously analyzing these sentence structures, unexpected writing patterns, and specific emotional expressions. To the algorithm, a simple missing pronoun isn't a typo. It acts like a flashing red siren, betraying a liar's deeply hidden intent. But extracting those 31 features? That's really only half the battle here. Next comes data mining. This means taking those extracted clues and analyzing the massive dataset as a whole to discover broader patterns and, crucially, to make future predictions. Those extracted linguistic clues are fed directly into powerful machine learning algorithms. The machine looks at all 371 statements, carefully compares those 31 text mining clues against the known truths and the known lies, and over thousands of iterations, it learns the true mathematical shape of human deception.
Section 4. Machines against liars. So, this all brings us to the ultimate showdown. Here are the exact results from the case study comparing machine learning accuracy. Remember earlier? We know human beings score a pretty dismal 54% in detecting lies. Well, researchers tested 3 distinct predictive models to see which one could best catch a liar using the data we just talked about. And let me tell you, the numbers represent a massive, significant leap from human abilities. They prove definitively that automated systems can, in fact, outperform us in these specific text-based environments. Let's look really closely at the hierarchy of this algorithmic success. First, we have logistic regression, which is a more traditional statistical model. It achieved an accuracy of 65.28%. Already, that's a very solid improvement over us humans. But as we move up the ladder, the decision tree model reached an even better 71.60%. And reigning absolutely supreme at the top, artificial neural networks achieved an incredible 73.46% accuracy rate. By actually mimicking the complex way the human brain processes information, the neural network proved to be the absolute most lethal weapon in our digital detective's arsenal, successfully catching nearly 3/4 of the lies it analyzed.
Section 5. The flaws in the system. Now, 73% success rate is undeniably impressive, but we really have to pause and realize it is a long, long way from perfect. So we have to ask a very uncomfortable question. What happens when the machine is wrong? What happens when a cold mathematical algorithm incorrectly flags a completely innocent person as a liar? We aren't just talking about abstract data points anymore, folks. We are talking about human lives, careers, and personal freedoms hanging entirely in the balance of a machine's mathematical calculation. The real-world risks of this kind of inaccuracy are genuinely devastating. The most immediate terror is a false accusation. The misclassification of totally truthful people could easily lead to innocent suspects being aggressively targeted by law enforcement or honest, hardworking employees being instantly fired from their jobs. This opens up a massive, tangled web of ethical and legal concerns. Think about it. If an AI accuses you of committing a crime purely based on how many pronouns you used in an email last Tuesday, how on earth do you effectively defend yourself in a court of law?
Then there's the massive hurdle of the language barrier. Human communication isn't a math equation. It is incredibly messy and diverse. We don't all speak or write in standard, perfectly robotic English. Our individual writing styles are heavily influenced by our culture, our unique personalities, our education levels, and even just our emotional state that day. We use local slang. We constantly use abbreviations. This massive, beautiful diversity can very easily confuse a rigid system. Trying to create a single, universal algorithm that accurately identifies deception for every single culture on planet Earth is an incredibly difficult and, honestly, perhaps impossible challenge. And then we run into the profound ethical nightmare of surveillance. As the case study itself explicitly warns, monitoring emails, messages, or online communication may violate personal privacy if not properly regulated. Having an unrestrained digital detective constantly scanning every text, every private email, and every social media post looking for linguistic anomalies, well, that very quickly transforms into a highly invasive tool of mass surveillance. The line between keeping society secure and completely destroying our personal privacy becomes dangerously, dangerously blurred. Also, we absolutely cannot underestimate human cunning. This introduces the threat of what we call the evolving liar. Once deceptive individuals learn exactly how these machine learning models work, Once it becomes public knowledge that the algorithm is actively hunting for specific sentence structures or counting your pronouns, they will just intentionally manipulate their writing style. A skilled liar will simply adapt. They'll change their text to appear perfectly truthful to the machine's mathematical rules, effectively hiding in plain sight and rendering the entire AI completely useless. Finally, there is the training data trap. We have to remember that an artificial intelligence is only ever as good as the teachers who programmed it and the specific data it was fed. If the foundational training data is biased, incomplete, or just flat out inaccurate, the AI's future judgment becomes fundamentally corrupted. If the machine is taught the wrong rules for what a lie actually looks like, it will consistently and very confidently make the wrong predictions. It's the old tech rule: garbage in, absolute garbage out. Because of all these profound risks, the final verdict of this case analysis is actually crystal clear. This incredible technology absolutely must remain a supportive tool for human judgment and never, ever a complete replacement. The digital detective is totally brilliant at processing massive, overwhelming amounts of text and quickly flagging suspicious patterns that tired human eyes would definitely miss. But the final decision, the ultimate judgment of truth, guilt, and real-world consequence, must always remain in the hands of human beings. Only we can truly understand context, have empathy, and grasp the actual gravity of making an accusation. As our digital world continues to expand and evolve, so too will the algorithms built to monitor it. The machines are getting smarter every single day. Their accuracy is rising, and the digital detective is always learning. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly chilling thought to consider the next time you hit send. Who or what is really reading your next message? Thank you for watching World Explain. See you in the next video.